In the raucous carnival of comedic discourse, the irreverent maestro Anthony Jeselnik takes center stage, wielding his verbal wit like a linguistic saber against the like of Dave Chappelle, a godfather in the world of stand-up comedy.
I was surprised to get the invite, but I was excited and went and did this podcast. And I forget a lot of what we talked about on the podcast, to be honest. Like, when it airs months later, I'm just kind of like, I kind of remember. But my mom actually told me, I talked to my mom to give her my condolences on Annabelle. And she was like, yeah, I saw this article that was kind of digging into you for your take on cancel culture. And, you know, some of the comments, they were defending you, but, you know, the guy seemed pretty mad at you. And I went and read the article. And these things don't bother me. I don't even remember what the article was. It wasn't like a major publication. But I will take any chance I can to dunk on this cancel culture argument. The article was angry at me. They're saying, like, I don't think cancel culture is a thing. And I have no sympathy for Dave Chappelle. He complains about, cancel culture is making my job harder. I think I said, your job should be a little hard. You're making $20 million a special.
He also won a Grammy last night.
He won a Grammy last night for the special that everyone got the most mad at him for the closer. Mm-hmm. He won the Grammy for that. Okay? He's playing arenas. He makes so much goddamn money that him saying, you're making my job a little hard. Why are you complaining? I was like, I don't understand what the complaint. Just do what you do. You get to say whatever you want. And this article is like, cancel culture is not a thing. Dave Chappelle endured months of attacks from the trans community. What is your definition of attack? Mild criticism? We don't like it? If you're that big and your audience is that huge and the world watches your special, some people are going to not like it. And they're going to say it. And that's the worst that happened to him. They're like, he got attacked on stage. That was a crazy dude. That was a crazy dude looking for like 15 minutes. He didn't give a flying about what Dave Chappelle jokes about on stage. I don't understand why the biggest comic in the world would spend so much time complaining about this stuff. And then the article goes on to say, what about cancel culture is not a thing? And I said consequence culture. He's like, it's the left parroting term. Get the fuck out of here. There are consequences to what you do, always. It's not being canceled. Because what about Roseanne Barr? Roseanne Barr lost her entire career over one tweet. Yeah. Her entire career was an ABC sitcom. She worked for Disney. It was a tweet. You're going to lose your job over that when you work for ABC. That's ridiculous. Well, I think there were other examples. And the thing that makes me the most mad about this is I get a lot of pushback from comics for not being on the cancel culture guy. Hey, you got to listen to the podcast. Don't let the woke mob win. Get the f out of here. You're afraid of social media. When you talk about the woke mob, you're talking about social media. And if you're going to use social media for things, it's a double-edged sword. But the thing at the end where they're like, I don't know if Jeselnik's joking or if he's just doing this to get the woke mob off his back. I don't worry about the woke mob. I do not. You know who comes after me? You know who comes after me on social media trying to get me canceled? Is QAnon people getting mad about child jokes, which I love and I'll never stop doing. And what was the last thing that he said that drove me crazy? It was you're just doing this to keep people off your back. And these are my opinions. I've always had this opinion. I've always believed that it's total bullshit. Comedy should be a little dangerous. And if there's no consequences, then it's not dangerous at all. So do your job. Be better. Joey Swole. And that was, did we get any notes? Hey, like, my special was so extreme that the streaming services wouldn't take it without me editing out my favorite bits. So I'm going to put it on this site where you've got to pay for it. And if you guys don't pay $20 for this special, then I guess my career's over and the woke mob won. That's marketing. Do what you got to do to sell your special. That's great. It is 100% marketing. None of that stuff actually happened. In the NFL, here's the metaphor I like to use. In the NFL, every single year, before the season starts, they change the rules a little bit. They changed the rules to help the offensive players. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't make contact with the receiver. You can't tackle him this way. And the defensive players get mad. And they complain for a week. They're like, this sucks. Why don't they just put a dress on the guy? This is going to be tough. And then the first game of the season, you have no excuses. You go and play the game. You can't miss a tackle and say, well, these rules, no one gives a shit. They only care about the score. Football players all shut up when the season starts and they play the game with the new rules. Cancel culture, these are the new rules that we have in this society. That's the thing. At the end of this article, they're like, how many hilarious jokes How many hilarious, amazing jokes have been ruined now because of this? Zero. Zero hilarious jokes have been ruined. How many Hass jokes that you could have made 30 years ago you can't say anymore? Probably a bunch, but people still do them. You can still say whatever you want. They're just bad jokes.
Well, and people do. That's the thing. Sometimes I'll be at a show of yours where it's like a show at the store where everyone's just doing 50 minutes. So it's a big variety of people. And 3 out of 5 people before you have a whole bit on cancel culture or woke. So it's like you don't want to be doing something that 3 out of 5 people are doing, no matter what it is.
Yeah, it's boring. It's bad. No one cares. There are ways around it. I hate the whining. Yeah. I don't want the whining.
Roseanne could be selling out comedy clubs right now if she bared down and did stand up again.
Yeah.
She just doesn't get to have a sitcom.
She's doing not an ABC sitcom. She could do another one if she wanted to. And she's got so much goddamn money, she doesn't need to do a bunch of different stuff. Yeah. I'm sure she enjoyed the sitcom and all the money she got, but it's ABC. ABC would never hire me. Disney would never hire me in the first place. That it's ridiculous to say that was cancel culture that lost her job. She worked for Disney.
He plunges into the maelstrom of cancel culture, recounting a podcast where it's gnashing teeth chewed on the bones of free expression. Unperturbed by the subsequent criticism of his views, Jeselnik emerges as an unyielding titan, unshackled by the chains of concern for public opinion. As Jeselnik navigates the labyrinth of cancel culture, he casts a critical eye on comedians who bemoan its existence. He lobs comedic grenades at the likes of Dave Chappelle, who, despite the tempest stirred by the trans community after a controversial special, revels in the sweet nectar of success and financial gain. Jeselnik dismisses the complaints as melodramatic whinging, akin to the wails of a comedian's wounded ego rather than a true skirmish against cancel culture. The narrative unfolds further as Jeselnik presents the case of Roseanne Barr, who faced the guillotine of public opinion after a controversial tweet cost her an ABC sitcom. He stands in stark opposition to his comedic brethren, arguing that such consequences are not the shackles of cancel culture, but a reasonable outcome of one's actions. In his sardonic symphony, Jeselnik derides the chorus of complaints as tiresome and bereft of humor, a dull refrain sung by comedians seeking to leverage controversy for sales. In the Colosseum of public opinion, fans of cancelled comedians may raise the banner of artistic freedom as their foremost argument. They contend that cancel culture, with its swift judgments and guillotine-like consequences, infringes upon the sacred ground of creative expression. Like valiant defenders of the comedic arts, they argue that the cancellation of comedians denies the audience the right to experience diverse perspectives, even those deemed controversial. A fervent cry in defense of cancelled comedians resonates with the argument that cancel culture stifles nuanced discourse. In the battlefield of ideas, they assert that silencing comedians impedes the very essence of comedy, a mirror reflecting society's idiosyncrasies and absurdities. The counterargument contends that allowing comedians to traverse the uncharted territories of discomfort fosters a richer societal dialogue, enabling the exploration of topics often considered taboo. Fans may further thrust the shield of context into the fray, contending that cancel culture often cherry-picks moments devoid of nuance. They argue that scrutinizing comedians' past remarks without acknowledging the evolving nature of comedic craft is an exercise in myopic judgment. The defense posits that a comedian's work must be viewed through a lens that appreciates the fluidity of cultural sensitivities over time. Another formidable counterargument emerges from the arsenal of fans, wielding the economic impact of cancel culture. They contend that the repercussions extend beyond the immediate silencing of comedians, affecting livelihoods and dampening the vibrancy of the comedy landscape. The economic argument suggests that the cancellation of comedians may lead to self-censorship, stifling creativity in favor of safer, more commercially viable content. A vocal faction of fans may also contend that cancel culture perpetuates a culture of fear, where comedians tread cautiously to avoid the guillotine. This argument suggests that the pervasive fear of being cancelled stifles the bold experimentation inherent in comedy, leading to a homogenized and tepid landscape bereft of the audacious flair that defines the genre. Jeselnik's verbal onslaught continues with a scathing critique of the notion of cancel jokes. He contends that comedians remain free to unleash their linguistic artillery but must confront the consequences if their verbal ordnance misfires. The cacophony of complaints is, in Jeselnik's eyes, the monotonous bleating of those unwilling to adapt to the shifting sands of societal rules. With a flourish, Jeselnik pivots to Rosine Barr's fate, asserting that she still has a comedic stage but may not grace the sitcom throne again. He vehemently rejects the claim that her ousting was a paragon of cancel culture, deeming it a judicious decision by her employer rather than an attack on artistic expression. In his grand denouement, Jeselnik unfurls the banner of indifference towards cancel culture, dismissing it as an irrelevant sideshow. He asserts that the choice of employers to engage with controversial figures is a personal prerogative, akin to a theatrical producer deciding whether to cast a tempestuous actor or avoid the ensuing tempest. Jeselnik stands as a comedic Spartan, unbored by the tempests of cancel culture, wielding his linguistic spear with audacious indifference.